Hey race fan, Brian Davis races, and you can too! Today we are going off to the last race of the SnowCrown series. I am just pulling out of my driveway right now. It is 7 a.m. The race is about an hour away, and I am super excited about this race because it's going to be fast. It's on cross-country ski trails mostly. Maybe, I'm sure there'll be some single track, but hopefully it's as much cross-country ski trails as they can muster. I know that is not the popular opinion. But I am ready to just go fast without having to worry about slushy snow or technical things and all that stuff. So it's all got its place, but I'm ready for a fast one. All right. So what have I been doing this week? This week is super interesting. I took a rest week prior to this race. There's another reason for the rest week I'll get into in my next video. So make sure you subscribe, like the video, this video. That helps YouTube realize that I'm not an idiot. Even though you may think I'm an idiot, just smash the like button anyway. And then stay tuned to that next video. It'll be interesting. There's some big switcheroos going on, so excited to talk about those. And I'm excited to race today. I have good positive vibes about racing. My fitness feels good. So I went back and looked at my Training Peaks. I'm back to being a Training Peaks premium member, so I find that to be really helpful. I guess I did miss it more than I thought. But what it showed me is that for the last 3 races of this 4-race series, I've been totally buried by fatigue. So this is the first time that I've rested up, and I'm going to hit this race with freshness. So that'll be interesting. What does freshness do to your race performance? I imagine it'll help. We'll find out. You know, that's racing though. Anything could happen. You know, I could fall in the first turn and whatever. But that's okay too. I'm just out to have fun. And we are gonna do that.
Calm down before you stress up the groove. The energy a little different when the blessings accrue. Hey, who you talking to? Just know I ain't no regular fool. Could be anything in the world, but I can never be you because I stand tall like I'm on my tiptoes, baby. You think a little too small. I got big goals, baby. Hey, where the money at? Look, I just need the info. Pronto, I go and get it.
All right, race fam, just got the scoop from George. It is 100% ski trail the whole time. It's like a super highway of a fat bike race. I'm so excited. And this is the finishing straight. So, you know, tons of space there. I just want to get this timing down because this screws me up all the time, is not knowing where the race finishes. If I have a sprint or anything along those lines, I want to get that figured out. This is our starting line here. And then we're going to go right around this loop, just kind of start right into this turn. So ideally, I'm going to start over there. It's hard to see what's turning. I'm excited. You can't too.
Don't mess up the mood. Yeah, I work too hard for it. Yeah. Don't mess up the mood. Oh, it's so crucial. I gotta keep it. It's in the ass everywhere.
Hey, race fan, Brian Davis races, and you can too. Here we are at the last of the SnowCrown series, race number 4 of 4. This is my type of course, as I mentioned in the intro, a cross-country ski trail, and that's all. No single track, nothing mushy, nothing difficult, just one big, fast road race on snow. That's essentially what's happening here. And this, my friends, this is my type of course. I am very excited to be racing this. My fitness is pretty good right now, like it's actually sort of peaked up. And then a huge change for this race versus the previous 3 races in this series is that I took some rest this week, actually a bunch of rest before this race. So for the first time in this series, I was able to have freshness coming into this race, which is a huge difference maker. Like I mentioned, let's see what happens, and I'm gonna give you a little spoiler. It was a good day. This was a good day. I had so much fun racing my bike today because I had the legs, the lungs to be able to actually play the game. I mean, not like as well as I would want to, but pretty well. Like I put myself in a position where I could be competitive and relevant in the race, and that's generally all I'm hoping for when I'm trying to race my bike these days. So I just want to matter. So this rest concept is super interesting, and there's going to be much more on this coming up in the next week. So make sure you smash the like button for this video. It really supports the channel, lets YouTube know I'm not an idiot, like I mentioned. So while we're talking here, just smash that like button. Thanks, I appreciate it. And then also, there's going to be the next video later this week, or next week is going to have a really interesting announcement. That's a big change in how I'm addressing my training, so be sure to tune in for that. So back to the race here. You can see in my bag in front of me, I've got 2 SIS gels. I've got a bottle with, I think the bottle would have 33 grams of carbs. Each of those SIS gels, I believe, is 22 grams of carbs. So 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 grams of carbs for what I'm expecting to be a 90-minute race. So probably 1 SIS gel short of a good time in retrospect, but that's okay. I had 1 right before we started, so I guess that's not true. So I should be right around 1 carb a minute, which has been my nutrition plan in training for the last 6 weeks, and that's made a huge difference with my quality of workout. Now this race started like this. It seems like we're going slow, but let me tell you, we're right at the 80% mark, right? Like, so all of us back here could go faster, but at what price? At what price? So I skipped a big train there. And this gentleman here in the black and yellow is the first time we're going to see him, and he factors quite heavily into the race. I believe he's from Minnesota. I forgot his name. Spoke with him briefly later, but I think it's Steve. I'm not sure. But I'm sure someone watching the video knows exactly who he is. So he'll be an important figure as this race unfolds. So I'm sitting here fourth wheel, and this is, well, now I'm 5th wheel. So I'm feeling pretty good about things. Like I was saying, everyone could have gone faster. I'm skipping. There were some minutes here skipped. So this is the first lap. There's 3 laps in this race. We're going to race for pretty spot on an hour and a half. So each lap is a half an hour. And this edit is going to be the whole race. So you're going to get the whole race with some fast forwarding and some skipping around and things like that. So just to prepare you for that. Now again, if you want to watch this on the trainer, I totally encourage that. That's why I make these a little bit longer lately, is I suspect that you're going to be on the trainer. So if you want to mute me and just watch the video of fat bike racing in Northeast Wisconsin, then I applaud that effort as well. I do find these types of videos hugely motivating, these first person cycling videos hugely motivating on the trainer. So if you're like me, this is a good video for you to watch while you're on the trainer. All right, so in front of the race is a gentleman, Scott Van Thiel, and he is a really, really strong rider and lives right in my neighborhood area. So he took the lion's share of this first lap pulling. And Scott has not. I don't think Scott has raced these previous 3 races, but I saw him this morning, or the morning of this race, and I thought, oh man, this is going to be a hard day trying to keep up with Scott. In fact, it's so hard that it's not something that I would purport to be able to do. So not a surprise to see Scott take the lead here. And then we're going to have, I think that's, I don't know where Mike Budd, I think he's second. Mike Budd is in this train, and then Aiden is third. And then behind me, is that Dan or Kurt right now? I'm not quite sure who's behind me at the moment. So Aiden's a younger rider right in front of me. He's got this vest. He's going to take that vest off later, and then we'll be able to. He'll be with us the rest of the day. So there you go. I think that's Dan pulling up on my right. Dan Teeters. He was giving us some pre-race checklist tips, which I definitely used for this race. So I did clean my drivetrain completely. I got the factory grease off the new chain finally. And then I showed up to this race, and the shifting was awful on my pre-ride, and I thought, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I'm going to be doing this again with bad shifting. So luckily I caught one of the mechanics, Josh, from Broken Spoke, and he was able to quickly diagnose it as having an upside-down master link. So we fixed that, got it sorted, and the bike ran flawlessly the rest of the day. I cleaned all the salt and gunk off the bike, gave it a nice wash. The drivetrain was running like a top, cleaned absolutely everything off the drivetrain, put some new lube in there. So life was good. Life was good on the bike, that's for sure. Life was good in the fitness department. I'm down weight from the first race. I think I was 183 or 182, and this race I woke up at 177, so that's a 5-6 pound cut. Pretty big difference. This race is really flat. There's a couple little kickers that are just enough to throw you off your game, but really not much. Certainly no sustained climbing. All the quote-unquote climbs are like, 10 seconds or something like that. But in the snow, they can be quite challenging. And then behind me is Cole House. So Cole has won a number of these races. He might have won all 3 of these races so far. So Cole is a really talented, gifted rider, and just a joy to watch him work through single track. He is a bike handler, super impressive. So I always learn something following Cole, although it's usually not for very long. So there you go. All right, so I have to say, after this race, we're going to see this unfold, and I was just euphoric after this race. I was so excited about bike racing. I was so stoked to be on my bike. It was a gorgeous day out here. Reforestation camp in Green Bay, right outside Green Bay, Wisconsin. There's a zoo right around the corner from here. A zip line. It is a cool facility, and these trails, I'm grateful that they let us run this race on these ski trails, and there are single track trails here, and I've done a video on a mountain bike race that I've done here as well. That was almost all single track, but this is all double track, high speed highways, right? So here's the gentleman, I believe from Minnesota, coming up on the left, and he is going to move his way up, and then this is going to cause a little bit of consternation with Cole, who's behind me. Cole is well aware of this person, so Cole is mindful of not letting that person get away. I apologize for the name. I really should have looked that up. But I'm a one-take wonder when I start the voiceover, so it is what it is. All right, so this train, you can see when I go fast forward, so this train is pretty intact. So we're still on the first lap. Like I said, it's about a half hour into the first lap. My heart rate is, we'll be able to see it if we get in the sun correctly. What does that say? 147, somewhere in that neighborhood. So for me, I start to cook at 156. If I go over 156, paying the piper, even 154 is kind of like, this is not going to end well. I only got a few minutes of that. So 147 is pretty manageable. No problem. I should be okay for quite a while there. And in this train of riders, I'm quite comfortable with the drafting. And again, this feels like home to me, being a roadie at heart. So this is a roadie race through and through. And speaking of that, there might have been, I'm not going to call it a mistake. I'm curious what you guys want to say in the comments about this. And I'll call myself out for what I believe could have been a mistake, but I also want to applaud myself for having some courage in the race too. So I don't want to call it a mistake. I just want to call it a tactic, and you guys can decide how you feel about that tactic. Now, the thing that you don't understand about the tactic when we do go to judge that is that you're not feeling my legs and lungs when I make the decisions that I make. So it's just a different ball game, as everyone would imagine, when you're actually racing versus when you're watching these videos later on. So we're starting to get some breakup here. So that gentleman that factors into this race went up to the front. He's doing a big yank, and that's separating some of the troops behind him. I think we are going to close this gap here shortly. Yep. So okay, and that's Dan, and this is a move, and then immediately after I make this close, I think, I don't know that I needed to do that, so I had a little spike, not a ton. It was fine, but it was enough to be like, don't know if that was the right call. So earlier in the race, I let 2 riders, I think, get by me without any sort of consternation. It's fine. But I started to feel like maybe I'm being too generous with letting people go by. So that was part of wanting to close that gap, is just wanting to pull that spot back. So that was Dan Teeters that let that gap open, and then he closed it right away, and then I skipped a few minutes here. So now we've got Kurt behind us. We've got our same 3 leaders here in the front. I believe that is the gentleman still in the black and yellow is up there, and then we're going to have Mike Budd, and then Aiden. I think that's it in front of. There's 3 riders. I believe I'm the 4th, and then behind me is Kurt, and Kurt is starting to get tailed off here. And I don't know that. I still feel like, oh man, there is I'm sorry, that's Cole, Mike Budd, and then the rider who keeps pulling. And I keep thinking to myself, well, this guy's doing quite an effort here. At some point, this has got to calm down. And I don't know when I turned around, but at some point here shortly, I think I turned around and saw that we had this big gap. Maybe it was after Aiden looked. Maybe it got me curious. So there it is. There's the turn. I'm like, holy cow, look at that gap. I made the selection. Oh my gosh, I made the selection. I'm so excited to have made the selection. So I am just stoked, right? Like, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm like, oh, this is okay. My heart is under control. My lungs feel good. My legs feel good. And I'm still up with this group. So far, no real issues. And then you can see that rider in the front, when we get to anything slushy or any of the turns, apparently he had too much air in his tires, so he was like Bambi on ice when we would approach these turns, to steal a Trainer Road podcast analogy. So whenever we hit a turn, it was, that accordion effect, we'd be able to slow down or catch him, and then as soon as we got flat and straight again, he was boom, he would take right off. So apparently that was the case all day long with that rider, although some of that I was not able to witness, as you're about to find out. So this, again, is a longer voiceover, but I wanted to give you kind of the scope of the whole race. The GoPro hung in there for quite a while today. I did get a brand new battery for it, which helped a ton for the cold weather stuff, so I think I just have to buy a new battery every year for fat bike racing. And then I turned on my other front camera, the Garmin Verb, when the GoPro died, but for whatever reason it didn't really work. Well, it captured like a minute and a half and then it turned itself off, so I'm not quite sure what's up with that. And then that rear light camera, I want to say, camera, is the Cyclic. It's a tail light and a camera in one, and that little thing is amazing. It has got super battery life, and it's super easy to pull off the cart, and I don't know, it's pretty good. So this is an interesting moment. So Cole pulls out of the line, wants to talk to Aiden. I later found out from Cole that he was just telling Aiden who that rider was in the front, but what Cole may not have known, or maybe Cole did know, is that Aiden was pretty gassed, and then that opens up this gap, and it just creates some irregularity in the effort, and that put me in a lot of pain as well. So Aiden is suffering from that irregularity, and basically just that conversation with Cole tailed him right off. And I'm able to close the gap, which is fine, and Aiden eventually is able to close up. I think he closes up again, so super gutsy ride to be able to close that up, and I'm feeling like, okay, I'm in a good spot. At some point, I'm sure I turned around and realized I was the 4th out of 5. Wheels here in the front, I think this is where Mike Budd, later after the race, Mike said, I turned around, I saw the orange helmet. I was like, who's got an orange, or he said, who's got an orange helmet? And he thought, well, Davis is the only one I know with the orange helmet. So I think Mike was very surprised to see me up there. I, myself, was shocked to see myself up there with this group. So I kept thinking, like, we have this huge gap. All I got to do is stay here in this draft. None of these guys are going to be expecting me to pull. If I'm called upon, I'll certainly decline that because I'm hanging on for dear life, or I plan to, because we still have another hour left of racing. But yeah, that doesn't become an issue. So I keep thinking that person on the front's going to play a tactical card here and pull off the front and say, do the chicken arm, you guys pull through. But he doesn't. He just keeps driving the pace. Pretty crazy. So I do want to say, too, in the beginning, heading over to this race, I had super positive vibes about how I was going to do in this race. The rest, I think, had a huge amount to do with that. I felt fresh on the bike. I felt fresh as a human. Like, things were just going well for me. I'm very optimistic about how I might do today. So I had a mission today to try to place better than where I have been. And things are looking really good right now, right? Like, I'm in a prime spot. So we are, I suspect, well, there's a photographer, so we're getting fairly close to the start-finish line coming up. I think we got about, and I don't know the length of the lap just yet. I talked to some people that did pre-ride the whole lap, and they said it should be about 25 minutes was the estimate. I think our fastest lap was 28, is that right? So almost a half an hour on the dot per lap is what I'm using, well, what I'm going to use once we pass start finish. And for this race, because there's only 3 laps, I actually was smart enough to be able to keep track of all 3 laps on my own without having to use the lap counter on my Wahoo. So yay! All right, so it looks like we lost Aiden on the back, and now it's just me with 4 total, and I'm on the back. And guys, I'm shocked. Race fam, I am shocked to be here. And I'm so excited about it. I can't believe it. And we're about to come up to start finish, and I think I will not be the only person who is surprised to see Brian Davis Races hanging out with the tip of this race. Pretty exciting. So I feel really good about all the work I put in to get my fitness up to the point where it is. A lot of Trainer Road, a lot of hours in the basement. So somebody asked me after the race how many hours I'm doing. I did actually go back and look, and Strava says I'm doing about 9.5 hours a week since the beginning of the year on average, and that feels about right. So this week was supposed to be 11 hours on high volume of trainer work, and I bailed for the rest. And again, watch my channel later in the week. You'll get a little more insight as to why that was the case. But really, I guess I'll save that for that video because there's some thoughts I have. If you caught the Dylan Johnson video about Trainer Road this week, that one really hit home. However, I was having a lot of thoughts about Trainer Road prior to that, so I'll explain all those thoughts in that video coming up later this week. So here's the moment, right? We're coming up start finish, and boom, right there, I lost. If you saw, I took an SIS gel, so the carbs were working, but they just didn't hit yet. So I started to lose this momentum, maybe the blood sugar drop, whatever it was. I just couldn't maintain that pace, or they just went faster, right? So I just couldn't maintain. So 1, 2, 3, there's your leaderboard. And then here I come in fourth. So Brian, Mr. Fix-It-Sticks, I think everybody in that crowd was like, wait, what? Who? What? Who's that? In fourth? Are you serious? Like, what happened? Was there a huge crash? What happened? All right, there's a Weatherneck blast. I was able to take the bandana off with the Weatherneck because they're magnetized. Fun fact. I actually quit making the Weatherneck system, so I apologize if you're looking for one of those. I am out on Amazon, and I don't have any more at my house. Maybe I'll go back to making those if you guys are all dying for them. I'll put the effort in next year. But for this year, I don't think we're going to have any more made. So we do that button hook and come back on the course, and I see the one rider that we tailed off, and then I see that group, and I'm thinking, wow, that group is way too close. I can't believe I'm doing all this effort. We're going this fast, and they're not that far behind. So I am going to officially commit to no man's land here for a long time. A long, long time. So I'm going to fast forward the bejesus out of this clip, and then we're going to pick it up here in a moment. So maybe I'll play some music because the clip is struggling because I put it on such high speed. My computer's bogging it down. I apologize for that. At least it's bogging down when I'm watching it for the voiceover. So, yep. I don't know what's going on here. All right, so anyway, I'll just keep talking. I am in the middle of nowhere. This lap goes on for, like I said, it's a half hour, so there's at least 15 minutes that I was by myself, probably closer to 20, because it was probably the last third of this lap that my dear, dear friends were able to catch up with me and help me out. So when I got to this point of racing by myself, I thought, wow, you're in fourth place. If you can just hang on, you should be okay. So you can see my heart rate there briefly is 148, somewhere in that range. So I'm doing okay. And then I have a little wipeout on one of these turns, and that kind of messes me up. But I try to do some positive self-talk after that and just recover. You're doing okay. I start looking around, expecting people are going to be coming up on my six pretty soon. But so far, I am by myself. We're hitting the hills. We're hitting the second half of this course, or the second half of this lap, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm hanging in there. Still, I'm super excited. So this is my type of race, the bike checklist, the terrain, my nutrition being on point, my fitness rising, executing my workouts at a high level. Like, everything is pointing for a good finish for Brian, and that was the case, right? So I'm just thinking, like, just hang on for fourth place. But I have 45 more minutes of racing to do, and I know I'm hurting. I know I'm suffering. Body's holding up, right? I'm not cramping. I don't have any major issues. So I'm just thinking individual time trial, see if I can make it, hold this gap, and maybe those guys ahead of me will start playing cat and mouse. Oh, no, I was completely wrong. Here are my friends. There's Derek, my frenemy, Derek Hughes. Derek is a super gifted athlete. At any time he can come off the couch and be fit. Well, I shouldn't say any time, but after a short amount of time, he can go from couch to fit in a really short amount of time. And so his genetic gifts plus hard work, he's really, really tough to beat. So he came to race. He definitely came to race this race, and I did too. So this is kind of fun to have this battle. And then there's Aiden and this rider from Stevens Point, whose name I forget as well. Oh, it's right on the tip of my brain. Ooh, it's right on the tip of my brain. I might think of it. But he's been in. I've had moments of him in these races. And then Dan Teeters has closed up behind us. Now, here's the moment I want you guys to discuss tactically: good, bad, indifferent, right? So when those four separated and I was feeling the heat when I was riding by myself, should I have just completely pulled the plug and waited for this group to catch? Or should I have done what I did and keep pushing as hard as I can to stay with the lead three, I should say, not four. Stay with the lead three, fly too close to the sun, suffer the consequences, and then have to be in a hole to recover physically? Or should I have waited for this next group? Well, I mean, I guess you're going to see both ways, right? Like, so at the next group, this group caught me, and I was able to get a good solid rest. So I just tucked in, and I'm like, I am not pulling nothing. No way. So here Derek is coming off the front. Derek's been on the front for a long time, and he's still going to make a move here to go up the road, or go up the trail. And I'm thinking, all right, this could be a big moment. I'm rested now at this point. I'm feeling like I've got more in the tank, but you know, these hills are enough to tamp down any ambition I might have. So I'm still just contemplating. Do I go? Do I not go? Do I go? Do I not go? I don't quite know what to do. The gap is getting... It was manageable. It was bigger. It was manageable. It was bigger. And then I think the Stevens Point rider up here sort of just measures his pace a little bit more. So we slow down a good chunk, and I'm thinking, I should probably make this move. If I'm going to make this move, if I'm going to shoot for the stars, I got to do it right now, because Derek's certainly up in fourth. Maybe I could catch Derek, and I could work. So my heart rate, you can see there, I think is 147, 148. So I got some room to move. Now, tactically, a mistake I made here was I did go to the front, and I did, give him the look like, hey, jump on my wheel. In retrospect, not sure I should have signaled that I was going to be working with them. I think I should have put in a dig to get separation. It might have been too early in the race. Keep in mind, there's still 45 minutes left. Well, I would say probably somewhere around 40 minutes, 35 minutes left in this race at this point. So yeah, there you go. I have one gel left, one SIS. Derek is up there, and I'm putting in it's a fast pace to close the gap. Probably too fast. I probably should have been a little bit more judicious with my effort. But it was okay. It was okay. So I'm going to end up closing this gap, and these other folks I'm gonna pull them with me. Since I did wait to bring them up, I should have shared the workload with them or rotated out and let them close the rest of the gap to Derek. Don't know why I felt like I had to do the whole thing. But I was rested. I didn't feel super taxed to be doing this effort. Now, I do want to point out something here in the snow. It's interesting. Whenever we turn, it's definitely wishy-washy. I wouldn't call it mashed potatoes, but it's wishy-washy. And then as the race wore on, there were more and more of these randomly deep divots or ruts that were caused by the lower category riders that probably have too much air in their tires. So when they would get slipped, they would just dig that front tire in and create these huge ruts. And if you caught them, they were enough to throw you off your bike. So they were hard to see because they blended in. Everything was flat light, and I didn't wear any glasses or goggles. I went without any of that stuff because I've been finding they just fog up. It's not really worth it. So here I catch Derek, right? And then I make a little tiny mistake here. I go digging for my gel, and Derek really intelligently figures out that there's that peak, like, oh, they're not right on my... Okay, I'm going to give a dig, right? He sees me digging in my... Like, oh, man. So, at this moment, thankfully, those guys are still there that I pulled up, so I can work with them to keep that closed, which is what we did. But if I had not done that, that would have been exactly the wrong time to go digging for a gel, is after you put in an effort to catch somebody. And then, I don't know if you caught it, but earlier when I started the chase, I started digging for the gel. I couldn't get it out of there, but I started digging. Like, those are the worst times to be digging for food, is when you're doing something actively closing a gap or something like that. But oh well. All right, so here we got our group. I'm the last here. You can see in the rear camera, I'm just hanging on to the end. And then I think this is kind of my little montage of where I kept making mistakes. Because I'm tired, I started making mistakes in these turns. Oh, this was a killer. So I'm right here with this group, and then I lose traction. Aiden loses traction as well. Climbing that little hill was, oh man, that was so much harder than it looks. And that problem is going to take a long time to recoup from. So again, I'm making some cuts and clips. It took a long time to be able to catch back up after that. I'm happy that I was able to catch back up after that. I'm quite pleased that I had the mental focus to stay with the group. And I think part of that is because I experienced what it was like to be on my own, and that was not fun. So so that was super motivating. to stay with this group and get the draft, because I know our average speed is significantly higher with this group than it would be by myself. So I am really focusing on trying to close these gaps. But this kept happening like 4, 5, 6 times. You see these cuts I'm making. So every time I'd go around a turn, I would just do something weird, and I'd lose the wheel, and I'd have to sprint to catch back up. And it was closing those little gaps was just burning through a lot of energy. And that's unfortunate. So the GoPro dies. This is going to be the last couple minutes of the race. So first, I want to thank you guys all for watching. I want to thank Broken Spoke for putting these races on. Here I'm passing Dan, which feels amazing. Like, Dan is such a talented rider, and I know that he threw out the anchor because he's like, hey, I'm not in the top 3. There's no reason to crush myself. So, but whatever, I'll take it if I can get it. I'm still happy about it. And what I want to also applaud myself here for, and want you to think about in your racing, is, you know, what can you do to in this situation to keep pushing? So I thought there was like 5 minutes left, maybe it was 6, but I wanted to keep pushing. Push. These guys are out. You can't tell in the front, but they are out of my view. I do not see them ahead of me. Got to keep pushing. Maybe I can close the gap. Maybe I can close the gap. Maybe I can close the gap. So in the end, I was able to eat away a lot of that gap on them. So I think I finished a 38 seconds, 45 seconds behind where Derek was in 4th place. So Derek was with the group. Derek put in a move that split us all up, and that was the move that allowed Derek to get that separation. So those first 3 riders I was with in the beginning of the race finished the podium. It was Cole in 1st, Mike Budden in 2nd, and then the Minnesota rider in 3rd. Derek got 4th, and then the guys that I was with were 5th and 6th, and then I beat, well, I didn't beat, but I got in front of Dan to close up for 7th. I'm 99% sure I was 7th. I should probably have double-checked that today so I don't forget. But it was a great day. It was a great race. Beautiful weather. So much fun. Great to be out racing. And I want to thank you guys for subscribing to the channel. And thank you for saying something after the race like, hey, I like your channel. It means a lot to me. So thanks. Okay, bye.